Hey, do you hear bloodthirsty screaming?
More COV. Let's see what you got, recruit.
There's too many of them! We're doomed! Doomed!
It's the fire hawk! The God Queen wants her head!
Yeah!
And you're the mule! Breathe not my candle, Diarrhea sucks!
Right?
Borderlands 3 is the best game that I have played so far this year. There, I said it. No two ways about it, really. The moment I picked it up, it was very hard to put down. So hard that I could barely summon the strength to stop playing in order to actually make this video. That's just the way it was for me. And if you do decide to get Borderlands 3, I hope you enjoy it just as much as I do, albeit more responsibly. The biggest part of what makes Borderlands 3 very good is the quality of life improvements. It still has the same formula as the old games, which really doesn't need to be changed because it simply works. Why fix what isn't broken? It's more Borderlands for those who want more Borderlands. However, the new features make the old formula that much more fun. For starters, the game is far easier to navigate now. By pressing the bracket keys, you can swap between objective markers that you currently have on your active quests. If you want to pinpoint a spot on the map, you can set your own waypoint. You can now fast travel using your Echo device and teleport to your parked vehicle, so that when you finish a quest, you'll be right back on the road driving to the next one. If there's a place up high you want to get to, chances are you can climb your way to the top with a new mantling mechanic. No need to grenade jump anymore. If you happen to like the view up there, just pop the photo mode. Move the camera around, adjust the FOV, set your favorite filters, and blam! You have a great screenshot and you didn't even need third-party tools. Awesome! You can now replenish your ammo and health with just one press of a button, instead of having to open the vending machine to buy them individually or multiple times. Each item has an overall score that gives you a rough idea of how much better that gun is over the rest of the stuff in your inventory. If a legendary item appears or spawns on the map, it will be marked with a star on your minimap and have a distinct pinging sound and glow far more prominently to make sure that you never miss that drop. Oh, but in case you do, or it somehow falls off the map and into a lava pit, there's a lost loot mechanic that will catch that loot for you to retrieve later. Want to play with a friend but have a big level gap? Set the game to cooperation mode so that the enemies are equally balanced for both of you. You'll have different loot instances, so there's no need to fight over who gets to pick up what. Enemies will appear as a different level on your screen and at a different level on your friend's screen, but they will be equally as powerful for the both of you. Just in case you don't have friends to play with, AI companions can now revive you when you're down. They will prioritize you when you're down too, so it really helps. Case in point, Gearbox decided not to fix what wasn't broken and instead improve on it as much as they could, and it's beautiful. Compounding to the many ease of life changes is the game's amazing gunplay. It feels very easy to learn, but also has a good skill ceiling. As usual, critical strikes are determined not by luck, but by shooting at weak points. Each creature has its own weak point, and since many targets aren't humanoid, shooting the head won't always be the right way to go about things. Some enemies have barriers, things like riot shields, that you will need to deal with either by flanking them or by staggering them to move their shields away momentarily. Speaking of staggering, shotguns can now knock your enemies back, and it makes them far more useful now than in previous iterations. I still wish that critical shots would cause a stagger on mob type enemies though. Just saying. But oh well, perhaps that's one for the sequel. Anyway, just like previous Borderlands titles, some guns have elemental properties, and in this game, they introduced a new element called radiation. If an enemy is irradiated, it will explode upon death and irradiate anyone else around it. The cryo element makes a return from Borderlands the pre-sequel, and it's a handy element that slows down or indeed freezes enemies in place to make them easier to hit. Naturally, your standard incendiary, shock, and corrosive elements also make their return from the previous games. Borderlands 3 now has enemies with 3 HP bars, as opposed to the old games where enemies typically had a shield bar and then either a red or yellow bar depending on whether or not they were organic or robotic. Also, enemies can now have 2 bars of any combination of colors. For example, some enemies are organic, which means they will have a red HP bar, but instead of having a blue shield bar, they will have a yellow armor bar, which will require corrosion to effectively damage. It's a good idea to always have one on-level weapon of each element, or perhaps a Maliwan gun that can switch between different elements. Guns in Borderlands 3 are far more fun to use than in the previous iterations of the series. Each manufacturer is now defined by so much more than just better rate of fire or better accuracy. For a few examples, Jacob's guns now have ricocheting bullets when you land critical hits, and it truly rewards players who take the time to learn enemy weaknesses and take the time to properly aim. It also gives Jacob's guns a crowd control mechanism that they never had before. Hyperion guns still have the reverse recoil mechanic, like in Borderlands 2 and pre-sequel, only this time around they also deploy shields when you aim down sights. It's perfect for people who want to get up close and personal. The shields from Hyperion guns can sometimes convert shots taken into ammo, or indeed reflect them back at enemies. Atlas guns are no longer just better than every other gun like they were in Borderlands 1. Now, they're defined by their smart bullets. You first track your enemies and mark them using darts, or maybe a puck, or maybe a grenade. Once enemies are marked red, switch to your standard firing mode and shoot so that your shots home in towards marked targets. This is great if you want to attack while remaining safe behind cover. The unique properties of each gun manufacturer vastly improve the gunplay because they drastically change how you will play based on the gun that you are currently equipped. It will also affect how you build your character substantially. Of the many manufacturers in Borderlands 3, Torg is perhaps the most improved in my opinion. Barring specific exceptions like the Unkempt Harold, Flacker, and Hulk, I used to simply ignore Torg weapons in Borderlands 2 and pre-sequel. Torg weapons are far more fun this time around. They still fire gyrojet projectiles, only this time it's far easier to manage because the projectiles aren't that slow. Also, most Torg weapons allow you to switch between impact and sticky rounds. Sticky rounds will allow you to unload all of your explosives on one target, unload them at the same time for bonus damage, and...
Yes! It's finally over. You did it! Grab the fragment.
I find Borderlands 3 to be far more generous than its predecessors. While the game will always start with you picking the better uncommon green weapons among the sea of white common early game guns, I found my first blue rarity weapon fairly early in the game. It didn't take long before I found more epics and legendaries during the playthrough. I felt like I wasn't always hard pressed for better gear, or indeed gear that's more fun to use. It also helps that the game is well balanced by the by, and I'm glad we ditched the exponential balancing from Borderlands 2, and I'm glad we ditched the slag mechanic. In Borderlands 3, blue rarity weapons are more than enough to beat the game with, so getting epics and legendaries felt like I was finding something truly special, as opposed to something essential. Heck, even the green and white weapons are good enough once you really understand what makes these weapons tick. You'll never be starving for gear, especially since you will occasionally get email from different manufacturers when they see that you're using their weapons to great effect. The emails always come with a free weapon, and they're a great source of blue or purple gear. Anointed weapons make their debut in Borderlands 3. These are guns that gain bonuses based on your action skill. Sometimes, a weapon can be anointed in a way that will benefit all classes. Sometimes, a weapon can be anointed specifically for a class. These are also randomly found, adding yet another layer to the loot farming. These bonuses are also fairly substantial, so you will want to take these properties into account when building your character. Aside from guns, vehicle combat is also much more fun in this game, and in certain quests they will be emphasized. You can extensively customize your vehicle, not just aesthetically, but also with the weapons that they are equipped with. You can even change what kind of armor the vehicle will have, or what booster you can use. It's pretty damn amazing. As you play, you will unlock new vehicle types and find vehicles that you can hijack, GTA style. Once you've hijacked these vehicles, all you need to do is bring them back to a catch-a-ride station and gain any new parts found on those vehicles that were previously unavailable. Vehicles are also affected a lot more by the elements now. A cryo attack can freeze a vehicle in place, while a shock attack can mess with the vehicle controls. You can definitely use this to your advantage during combat whenever you get a Pandoran flat, which is code for your vehicle blowing up. The gameplay would not be complete without the special Vault Hunters that you will play as to use those glorious guns and ride those sexy ass vehicles. I certainly wouldn't want to play as a nobody in Borderlands 3. As per tradition, there are 4 starting Vault Hunters: Flak the Beastmaster, that's spelled with a 4 for an A, Amara the Siren, Mose the Gunner, and Zane the Operative, Zane as himself, I guess. Anyway, each Vault Hunter brings so much to the table now that they can choose between 3 action skills. Each character will utilize their action skills in different ways. In Mose's case, for example, her action skills are actually the weapons that her Iron Bear will use when she calls it down. She can pick between 2 of the 3 action skills, or indeed pick the same action skill twice. As you progress through the skill trees, you can get augments for your existing action skills, or indeed new action skills based on that tree. I found it far more fun to make builds for my character this time around. That being said, I wish that they had a test dummy in the shooting range in order to see what damage output your builds currently have without leaving the sanctuary. I mean, they had to have known how useful this was in BL2, and the fact that this wasn't available in pre-sequel was glaring enough that Gearbox had to have known people complaining about this with a cursory glance at the forums. I don't know why they couldn't keep a test dummy around. I can't explain that. But anyway, if you wanted to test your damage output, you'd have to spawn a car and shoot that. I suppose it's not that difficult to do, and that's why this is a minor issue, but still, come on guys. Come on Gearbox, you can do better than that. Anyway, skill builds aside, you can also customize your characters cosmetically. And trust me, there's a lot to offer here. Before, you just had a skin, a general color scheme for your character, and a custom head. That was it for BL2 and pre-sequel. For Borderlands 3, you could change your headpiece, you can change your skin, and you can customize the colors of that skin, so you weren't stuck with that one color scheme that you didn't necessarily like, and skins actually feel like skins instead of just color swaps. Oh, but wait, there's more. You can customize the look of your Echo device, you can customize what emotes you can use while in play, you can even customize the colors of your gun and add trinkets to them. This is a far more extensive set of customization options than what we had in previous titles. Personalization options aside though, the characters' personalities take center stage in the game. Characters are far more responsive to NPC chatter. They will have witty responses, they will have their own jokes, and they will contribute to the humor. This is something that started in pre-sequel, and I'm glad that they continued it for Borderlands 3. Each character has a different set of responses based on their personalities, and it's definitely worth replaying the game as a different character just to listen to the other characters' voice lines.
Alright, my old man Jacob couldn't decide whether he wanted to call me Barry or Alex, so he ended up calling me Balix. I know it's not the coolest origin story.
Nah, I get it. I'm Mozetta Hayusinian Yonlun Alamir Andreevna. Call me Mose.
Oh, and all of that is packaged together with a fantastic story. A story that they took to the next level. You have a fairly simple premise. You've got bandits that this time around have united under the banner of the Children of the Vault, led by the twin Calypso gods. Those who refuse to join them are instead destroyed, and to make matters worse, they have stolen the Vault map, which contains the location of other vaults in other planets. It is up to you to stop the nefarious plans of the Calypso twins with Lilith and the rest of the crew. Rather than have the story be confined to one planet, this adventure will take you to many planets and many vaults, looting and shooting your way from one quest to the next until your eventual face-off with the Calypso twins. You will engage in interstellar travel via the new Sanctuary ship. It will serve as your hub in between missions, and it contains all the facilities you need to sort out your loot and be ready for combat. You'll find Marcus' gun store and a shooting range just beside it. You get your own room that you can decorate and your own storage box to keep those precious, unique red text and legendary items. You'll also find Crazy Earl selling cosmetics and anointed weapons for Iridium. Many other NPCs that join your cause will eventually make Sanctuary their home. Naturally, these NPCs inject so much humor, plenty of fun, and even some dark moments into proceedings. Both the new and the old characters are very memorable because of their unique personalities. The same humor that you find from NPCs can also be found in bosses. Well, some of the bosses. There are a few exceptions that feel a little bit bland, like the Warden here, who just feels like yet another beefed up Goliath. Most of the bosses either have very funny voice lines or have a significant role in the story. Just like Handsome Jack did in BL2, some of these bosses will taunt you as you proceed to your adventure so that you look forward to the showdown with them. This game clearly has a very big lifespan. For starters, even after you let the credits roll, there's still so much to do in the game. There are many collectibles to find with very interesting story bits. If you seek a challenge, then there's True Vault Hunter mode. It's essentially a new game plus. You start the game all over again, only this time the enemies are much harder to kill. There's also Mayhem mode that adds modifiers to the game, keeping things fresh and rewarding you with more loot as you play. Oh, and just in case the game is just a little bit too hard for you, you can actually change the difficulty to easier instead of normal, which is pretty damn cool, though I will say that normal mode is very much beatable at the first try. Once you've beaten the game, you unlock the Guardian ranks. As you continue playing after beating your first playthrough, you will see this pink meter above your experience bar and level. You gain a Guardian rank when you fill it up, and you can spend it to get permanent bonuses to things like gun damage, fire rate, and my favorite, rare drop rate. It incentivizes me to keep playing, and I especially pick up rare drop rate whenever I can see it, because there are so many legendary weapons and unique items in the game that I just want to try out. Man, I can only say this game is fun and you should go try it. With so many variants found in the English language, it really is a blast. But that being said, it's not a perfect game. There are a few minor bugs that you'll encounter, and thankfully they are not game killers. Some of them do require that you go back to the main menu and then reload the game. But that's not really that big of a deal thanks to the game's checkpointing. But that being said, those are minor. What really takes the piss is the bad optimization. On my Ryzen 5 1600 and Nvidia RTX 2060 PC, the frame rate dips below 60 way too often for my taste. GeForce Experience always tells me that Ultra is my optimal settings, but the frame dips happen regardless of what settings I use, even if I tone the graphics all the way down to medium, or indeed cap the frame rate. This is the same type of frame rate nonsense that I usually encounter with games that have de novo, and sure enough, there are also a few features that seem to be outdated or not completely working. Like, how come I can't sort my inventory items according to how much they cost? Why can't I swap objective markers while I'm looking at the full view of the map? And why is it that the marker takes way too long to correctly show up on the minimap? It's happened so many times. I go one way thinking that I'm headed to the marker, and then find out too late I'm looking at the wrong marker because the marker didn't properly update. I've said marker too many times in that sentence, but you get my point. I actually have to swap to a different quest and then swap back to the quest I want to check so that I can actually see where the marker is supposed to be. What the heck is up with that? Let's also not forget the influence that the Epic Store has in the game, and unfortunately, it's anything but positive. Aside from the long list of features that unfortunately is missing from the Epic Store, and is definitely worth its own video by the by, it definitely has to be this particular error that really takes the shit cake. Sorry, you're using our service too frequent, please try again later. This will happen when the game freezes up and you are forced to close both Borderlands 3 and the Epic Store launcher via the task manager. When this happens, you need to turn off your modem and then turn it on again and wait for the internet to initialize so that you can play the game yet again. It's annoying. And it's such a shame that such a great game is bogged down by third-party nonsense coming from both Epic and de novo. It's such a shame. And I can't blame you if you decide not to buy the game now and wait for the Steam release. In another life, assuming I didn't have this channel to take care of, that's what I would have definitely done. Anyway, gripes as they may be, they fortunately do not outweigh the good in the game. I truly love Borderlands 3 and I definitely recommend it to anyone who wants to play. If you happen to live outside of the US, or indeed dislike the Epic Store, then I recommend you wait for the Steam release and get it for cheaper thanks to better regional pricing on Steam. Either way, I am confident that you will get your money's worth and more with Borderlands 3. Okay, so before I end this video, I'm going to say that unfortunately, streaming just isn't in the cards for me right now. The utilities where I come from aren't very reliable, and the noise all around me makes it virtually impossible. And I can't do much about it because unfortunately, where I come from, it's a very accepted part of daily life, even though I think it really should be. That being said, the new release schedule is still on. I'm not going to be releasing videos just once a week, though I figure I will still release a video every Sunday. In fact, I've got a planned video for my current gunner build, and I believe I will be posting that days from now. If you're interested in this, please subscribe to my channel so that you can enjoy these videos too. This is Speakerhead, your head speaker. Thank you for watching.